Let's talk for a second here about what happened with Shams, because I talked about this a little bit with David on Nothing Personal. I will be on with David on Nothing Personal, 8 a.m. Eastern on YouTube every day this week except for Friday. And one of the things that we were talking about, this is the smaller, petty part of this. For those of you who know that Woj and Shams were once pupil and mentor, and then became bitter rivals. And if you know the inner workings of the information business and this fight for millions and tens of millions of dollars in the information business, and if you've been listening to this show, you know that Woj was very proprietary about how he was a power broker at ESPN, where it is that he allowed people that he got along with to appear on ESPN or not appear on ESPN, and his rivalry with Shams became a bitter one because Shams became the only person on earth who could do that job as well as Woj was doing it. He learned at Woj's knee, and I think he's still in his 20s, if I'm not mistaken. He may be in his early 30s, but he is a real prodigy in this business to be able to do what Woj was doing with a lifetime of basketball sources, and did it differently because he had a lot of players as sources. It wasn't just management. It wasn't just agents. He was doing the job differently. Pat McAfee had Shams on all the time, and Shams was the only person at ESPN working anywhere in basketball on ESPN who was allowed to appear on any show that Woj didn't approve of as a basketball voice, because he was doing it through McAfee, and it would appear that McAfee sort of enjoyed doing that with Shams to Woj. I thought it was very strategic, if you're doing the petty stuff on this that so many people enjoy, that Woj goes on Jim Rome's show yesterday to talk about how proud and happy he is that Shams has that job, when I thought that the only reason Jeff Passan was being considered for that job is because Woj wanted one of his guys to work at ESPN, even if he didn't have any basketball sources, which Jeff Passan does not. And even if we've already seen Adam Schefter went into the basketball information business, Stugotz, and didn't do it well, because you cannot just go from one sport to another without a lifetime of sources and be breaking news all over the place. They're very difficult jobs to do well and have, and Shams is legitimately the only person on earth with the credentials, the reputation, and the sources to be able to do that job as well as Woj did. I've found it surprising that the money hasn't come out on what it is that Shams is earning, because these are jobs that now make between $7 and $10 and $11 million a year, because the information business is so valued by a company at ESPN that has downgraded how it does and spends on journalism, but not on this kind of information. On this kind of information, they're replacing the journalism they used to do that was more comprehensive and thorough with just get to information first with one of the insiders.
Well, we saw what happened live on the show today when there was a story breaking about Salah being fired, and we had an insider react to not being the insider for that story. And what struck me about this entire situation with Shams and with Woj is, how does it work when you're negotiating if you don't have any of the sources that you need to have? Is it that you don't need the sources anymore? Because as a front office, we would give the information to whoever we wanted to. We would choose in Baseball Insider nationally to give certain things to, much to the chagrin of local media. But we would do that, build, because we would want something back. You don't just exchange little black books. So I don't know how Jeff Passan or anyone else would have done that job.
It is interesting. I always thought that Shams was the natural replacement to Woj because he already has those contacts. He doesn't have to ask Woj for him. He doesn't just have the contact. It's not like, because you're right, I think with Passan, you're handing him the contact list, but he still has to develop the relationships. Shams already has the relationships, and he has the numbers. So for me, that was the natural guy, a younger Woj.
A contact list doesn't help you here. That's not how you do that job. Just having the phone numbers Woj has.
And to give the audience an idea just how much money these jobs pay, Woj left over $30 million on the table when he left. I mean,
Is it possible the whole beef was just kayfabe? Set up this grand, dramatic succession plan?
It's as possible as Aaron Rodgers ousting Robert Saleh because of the in-flight choices on movies.
Oh, so I was kind of kidding, but I think both those things could be true. I mean, who wants to watch MacGruber for a 14th time, Dan?
Right. Rang true to me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any information or opinions on this subject matter
I have a
that we're
question for you
discussing?
because listening to you talk, this led me to wonder, do you think that Woj would have retired abruptly and surprisingly to many if not for Shams on his tail?
I believe
that, yeah.
I believe that the pressure of that job was only that pressurized for Woj because of the existence of Shams. There's no third, like Chris Haynes is good, and there are a number of people who are good at it. There was no one and is no one that compares to those two. The bronze medalist there is a distant third.